Hi, this is Irving Steele on Local Issues, and we're super lucky today that we have a veteran who served our country for over 30 years. His name is Manny Meneses, and he has been working extremely hard with Congressman Joe Courtney's office and helping veterans all around the region. So thank you, Manny. It's great to have you here with us.
Thanks for inviting me, Irving.
Yeah, so maybe you could tell us a little bit, why did you choose over, I guess, 40 years ago now to join the Navy?
Well, I grew up in Connecticut. I grew up in East Hartford. After I graduated high school, I didn't want to do, my father raised me, single father raised me and my brothers and sisters, but he was a very hardworking individual, and I knew I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I decided to join the Navy, and when I went in the Navy, I decided to join the submarine force. Did that for 30 years. Went all over the country: San Diego, Norfolk, Virginia, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Groton. I finished up my last tour in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, which was nice. Then I retired and came back home to Connecticut because that's where my family is. My dad still lives in East Hartford, Connecticut, so it's nice to be back home, and been retired just about 10 years now.
Okay, and what did you get into after you retired?
Well, when I first retired, after being in the Navy 30 years, I knew I didn't want to be in the submarine force. I didn't want to work with submarines anymore. So I actually worked on a golf course for about 3.5 years.
Golf course, okay.
Yeah, I sure did, and I enjoyed that. I like to play golf, so I played golf and worked on a golf course in Hebron, and then out in North Franklin. Those two golf courses I worked at, and I enjoyed that for a while, but there was something tugging at me. I had brothers and sisters that are still serving and veterans out there that need help. And that's what I did when my last, say 15 years in the Navy. You're not really a wrench turner anymore. You're more of an administrator, and you're taking care of sailors and their families. So I figured I had something to offer. So I heard that Congressman Courtney was looking for somebody. I put in my resume and I started working for him January 2016.
Okay, so we're almost up to 6 years that you've been serving veterans in that fashion over Eastern Connecticut.
Yep, all of Eastern Connecticut.
Wow, and what are you kind of noticing in terms of the veterans right now after 6 years? Are you noticing some big opportunities, some big challenges? What do you see?
Well, when I first started, employment was a big issue. It's still a big issue, but in 2016 it was a really big issue, and a lot of the veterans didn't know where to go to get assistance. And there was a couple of programs out there that really assisted the veterans through outreach. So in Danielson, Connecticut, what they call it the Quiet Corner, they started a coffee house called the Danielson Coffee House. And that initially was started with TVCCA, and then they branched out to Norwich, Mystic, Montville, Pawcatuck. I think there's another one that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but they went all over the place, and then other towns and areas throughout Connecticut started getting wind of it, and the community started their own coffee houses. So now some of the most, the best coffee houses with the most veterans is Waterford, for instance. They have a great coffee house. Philomena's, I'm sure you're familiar with. The owner of Philomena's does a great job. He supports veterans in Waterford, as does the whole town. And then Willimantic, they actually have a community center there for veterans. And there's lots of veterans that go there once a week, and they get a lot of information. So there's opportunity for veterans to go there, get resources, find out what's happening in Eastern Connecticut and the country, so they know where to go to get the help that they need, whether it's medical help, financial benefits for any injuries that they may have incurred while they were active duty, or education assistance. And then there's other issues. There's always a plethora of issues that can be out there, whether it's some debt problems they're having with medical or Medicare, medical records, stuff like that. So they're able to do that now, and that wasn't so much 6 years ago. There's a lot of things out there that can help those veterans out.
That's great, and I think it's so important, kind of the strategy behind the coffee houses. I've gone to a couple in New London and East Lyme, and it seems like it just reduces the barrier. It makes it really easy for the veterans. Maybe they have a question, maybe they don't want to ask people in some instances, but it's easy. They can show up and find the information they need.
Well, you say barrier, and it's exactly it. There's a lot of veterans that don't want to talk to people that aren't like-minded.
Mm-hmm.
So having these coffee houses, another one in Plainfield, Connecticut, they do a great job, run by a guy named Ted Dumaine. They go there, they listen to the guest speakers that they bring in, and then they have their questions. And there's questions that they've been sitting on for years, and now they're coming forward and asking these questions. You know, for example, just a quick one, a lot of veterans suffer from hearing loss. And normal people don't have hearing loss unless they're subjected to, you know, some loud noises. And a lot of our veterans who serve in the Army and Marine Corps and the Navy and Air Force on the flight decks and in the propulsion plants, they have hearing loss. And unless they go to the VA and get enrolled, they're pulling $7,000 roughly out of their pocket to pay for a pair of hearing aids. So the VA can provide those if they could, you know, provide the proof and the evidence that they did lose their hearing loss while they were in. Mm-hmm. So that's, and there's lots of veterans, you know, hundreds in the last 6 years that have gotten, you know, benefits through the VA.
And a simple thing like that, you think maybe it's not that big of a deal, but
Mm-hmm.
without hearing, there's all these other implications
Right.
for your health and being a part of society.
Very much so, very much so. Actually, it causes dementia
Exactly.
and Alzheimer's for people. And then not to mention, it's hard on relationships when the spouses are yelling at each other because they can't hear.
Yeah, it makes it a lot harder.
Yeah.
And I think I remember you were telling me about another benefit that maybe in New Jersey or New York there might be more chances for veterans to get, but a lot of veterans around here maybe aren't so familiar with some of these benefits. Does that happen where different places know more than others?
Well, one of the things that we have here in Eastern Connecticut that's a little hard is we have our main central point for veterans' health is West Haven, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. So that's quite a distance, you know, away for some veterans, especially our older veterans, to travel. Mm-hmm. So in the Quiet Corner, for instance, a lot of our veterans go to Providence, Rhode Island, because it's much closer, which is great. They go to Providence to get to utilize the facility, but sometimes it's hard because we don't, in Connecticut, our government agency, the federal agency here in Connecticut, doesn't have the rapport with Providence that we have with West Haven and Newington, mm-hmm. The other facility. But we do have these CBOCs, community-based outreach clinics, mm-hmm. in Connecticut, or Eastern Connecticut. We have two of them, one in Willimantic and one in New London. I'm sure you heard about it. New London just opened up on November 1st, I believe. Mm-hmm. It's a facility that the congressman and myself and the director of the VA have been working very hard for the last 6 years to get this facility to be larger. It was only 4,500 square feet. Now it's 15,000 square feet. And it has 6 providers there now. And they also have more facilities and capabilities than they did in the last clinic. Plus it gives the staff a better workplace, so they're happier, so the veterans are happier. And one of the biggest things is they don't have to be outsourced to a different place to go get blood work done. They could do it there right on location. Mm-hmm. So that's a big deal. So that's, when we're talking about some of the barriers, that's one of the barriers. The people in the Quiet Corner, we're working on trying to do something up there because there's just not a lot up there for the veterans. Mm-hmm. So they got to travel great distances. Now I know the VA has a Mission Act, which is also called Community Care Act, mm-hmm. where the VA will say, hey, you have to drive over an hour, so we're going to go ahead and send you to a provider in the local community. Mm-hmm. But in a lot of cases, the provider's farther away, or you're waiting long periods of time to go see that provider. So it's not always the best. And to be honest with you, I use the VA myself, and they know about veterans. They know what's going on, where a lot of the outside providers do not.
Yeah, and I imagine that's part of what makes you so good at what you do, mm-hmm. is that you have over 30 years experience. Mm-hmm. You can really empathize and understand mm-hmm. what some of these veterans are going through. Yeah,
that's a benefit where I have that. The veteran will talk to me about what he or she is going through. They'll be able to, they understand that I've been around, you know, a little while. I've worked with all the services during my active duty career, and even the Coast Guard, I worked with them too. So they understand that I have some, you know, some input, or I know what's going on with what they went through, whether it was in Afghanistan, the Persian Gulf, you know, Iraq, Kuwait, Kosovo. There's a whole ton of places that we've all been, and I could understand what they're going through.
Yeah. And for some of that, you said that a big part is just getting that information.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, kind of in the quiet corner or other parts of the state, how are you using different channels and different things to get them the information now?
What I usually do is I try to hit all the coffee houses at least once a quarter. So I'll make my start at Danielson, I'll work my way across, and sometimes if I'm invited, I'll go to Ellington, but I hit Willimantic, Plainfield, Danielson, Groton, Mystic, Pawcatuck, and Norwich often. Montville just opened their coffee house again, so I'm going to them. But I go and talk to them for about 15 to 20 minutes about what's going on down in D.C. with regards to legislation, how it's going to affect us as veterans, and what new programs may be out there or changes to programs, so they know what's going on. One of the big things I talk to veterans about is their DD-214, which they all know is his discharge paper. So when you separate from the military, whether you're a retiree or you only do 2 years, you have a DD-214. That is your ticket. And if you don't have a DD-214, you're not going to get any veterans benefits. So I tell them all to make sure you guard it with your life. First of all, you have to keep it. Don't put it in a safe deposit box, because your family needs to know where it's at in the event there's an emergency.
And it's a piece of paper.
It's a discharge paper. You only get one. You only get one. They don't get updated. They don't make you a copy, but it's in your personnel record. So they give you one. They give you the original. They keep an original. It goes in your personnel record, and it goes to a place in St. Louis, Missouri called the National Archives. What veterans are supposed to do with it is go to their local town hall, and then they register as a veteran in their community. A lot of veterans here in Eastern Connecticut don't know it, but if you served during wartime, you can get a break on your taxes, an assessment off your vehicles and or your home. So when they do lose it, there are things that happen. There may be a fire or flood and it gets destroyed, or they just lose it during moves. They always can go back to their town clerk and say, hey, do you have my DD-214? And there it is. But in a lot of cases, the family, when a veteran passes, the family wants to do a military funeral or something like that, and they can't find a DD-214. I'll recommend they go to the town clerk. If they can't find it there, go ahead and come to our office, call Congressman Courtney's office and ask for me, and we're going to do the paperwork, and we'll send it off to the National Archives. And if it's an emergent request, we'll make sure that the archives understand it's emergent, and we'll try to get that as quickly as possible for the family so they can go ahead and do whatever they need to do for the veteran, whether it's health care, whether that veteran's homeless, or if that veteran is passed away and they just want to do a military funeral and get the headstone or the footstone done.
Sounds extremely important. And have there been any talks to digitize that?
Actually, after COVID happened, the National Archives, I try to give everybody a picture of what the National Archives is. And you just can imagine 20 football fields, a warehouse with Xerox boxes stacked 15 high. There's 22 million veterans records in there. So they had 3,000 employees. After COVID, they went down to 250-person shifts because they actually had some employees that contracted COVID, and I think they lost 3 employees. So they took it pretty serious, so they ended up becoming 550,000 requests behind.
Wow.
And they're catching up. Well, Congress passed legislation to give the archives more money, and so they could operate and start digitizing these records. So this is happening now. Before that, there was no appropriations for it, so they had to basically operate on the money they made off of veterans' families who requested records just for genealogy purposes.
Okay.
So it's going to be a long road ahead, though, for them to catch up. So veterans that came to the office before and requested Congressman Courtney get their medals for them. Medals are nice to have. It's not emergent requests. Every veteran is entitled to get one replacement set of medals. So right now, that's taken a very long time, where before COVID, it only took about 3 months.
Wow. Well, maybe on the flip side, I understand that you and your office has done an amazing job recently and launched this kind of state-of-the-art, amazing example for potentially the whole country over in Norwich. Do we want to talk a little bit about Rally Point?
Yeah, so the congressman and I were first approached about Veterans Rally Point back in 2016, and the congressman wrote a couple of letters of support for this facility because they had a great plan of what they wanted to do. They wanted a soup to nuts program where veterans can go in and receive peer-to-peer or group counseling. They could do some training. They can do computer-based learning. They can have a little handyman shop. They also have a state-of-the-art gym, which I open every morning, Tuesday through Friday at 6 a.m. And I work out there for about 2 hours before I go to my job. And then they have 2 locker rooms. They actually have a laundry room, and they have a little clothing room if you're looking for some warm clothing or maybe a suit or something like that. So it's a great facility. We just need to get the word out to our veterans in Eastern Connecticut so they utilize it. It's just like anything else. If it isn't used, it's not going to be there long. That's why I emphasize all the time, use this facility. And if you're not enrolled in the VA, a lot of people out there that aren't familiar with veterans or the military, they all think that anybody that serves in the military can get into the VA healthcare system. It's not true. Usually there's some qualifiers. If you're a Marine, you served from 50 in the mid-50s to the mid-80s, there was an issue on the Camp Lejeune, so those are automatic qualifiers. If you served in Vietnam, that's an automatic qualifier. But the other reasons are you were injured on active duty. And that could be non-service connected or it could be service connected. Non-service connected means you were riding your bicycle while you were government property and you got hurt. So the VA is going to take care of you. But if the only other reason is if you have a low income, they understand that you can't afford health insurance, you need help, so the VA is going to be there. But if you did well for yourself and you're making $1 million a year, the VA is not going to be for you. So, you know, am I saying that that's right or wrong? No, I'm just saying that's the way it is because there's only so much money. So we want to take care of the veterans that really need it and can't afford regular health care. The VA is a good way. I use it because I am service connected, but there's a lot of veterans that do not use it, and they could. So if we don't use it, we're not going to get the facilities we need. So I always encourage all our veterans in Eastern Connecticut to enroll in VA healthcare. The worst thing they say is no. So let's try. Let's try to get in there. A lot of veterans say, well, I tried way back when, and they said, no, you make too much money. I said, well, you working then? They go, yes. Are you working now? No. Social Security, your small pension check maybe? Go try again. And a lot of them get in now after they're 65 years old and they retire. Okay.
And they need to be enrolled in that to have access to Rally Point?
No. Access to Rally Point is different because they're not associated with the VA. It's just a program to help veterans. Any veteran and their family members can go up to Rally Point and utilize the facilities. All you have to do is be an honorably discharged veteran to use Veterans Rally Point, as far as I know. Ron Welch, who runs it up there, he's retired brigadier general, he would know more about it. But if you go to Rally Point, they're going to ask you to sign in. They're going to ask you to provide the documents to show you're a veteran. And that goes from there. And the same thing if you're a veteran spouse, same thing. So.
Yeah, and I know that sometimes in the news that maybe the VA and the health system in regards to that doesn't get the best reviews, but I think you're exactly right that there's a lot of great technologies that come out from the Veterans Administration and a lot of great services that are able to be provided.
There's a lot of good research happening at the VA. They did a great job getting the COVID shots out to the veteran community. They actually passed an act that even if you weren't enrolled into the VA, you can, as a veteran, you can go get your shots there, and your family members can get their shots there. So we can get those shots out earlier than most people were getting them. And I received my first shot in, let's say, February of this year, and then my second one in March. So, and then they're calling me up for my booster, which I'm scheduled to go get, here in the next week or so. So they've done a great job with that. Yes, there's always going to be complaints everywhere you go. And that's where I encourage veterans, if you're having a problem with your appointments, if you're having problems with anything like that, please call the office and I'll assist you with the VA to make sure that it's just like any federal agency. You're going to call and you're going to get that runaround because everybody's trying to call at the same time. So you might not get through. So if you call the office, I'll do whatever I can to make sure your appointments are set up or you're seeing who you need to see. But what I will say is, be nice. Because if you're nice, they're going to help you. If you call up all cankerous, they're not going to want to help you as much as they're going to, but they're not going to be happy about it. So just be nice. That's all I'm saying.
Nice and show respect.
Yeah, show respect. It's and lots of veterans call me up, and some of them are just at their wits' end when they call me. So I understand where they're coming from. So just let me try to help you, and we'll work this out. And 9 times out of 10, we get it done, and they're happy with the result.
And I'm always so impressed how responsive you are. That for veterans, it feels like you get back to them very quickly and you help them resolve their issues.
Yeah, I try to get back as quick as possible because in a lot of cases they just want to talk to somebody. They just need, they have a claim in. It's been in the system for a few months to a year, and they just want to know what's going on. And it's really hard to sit there and wait and not know what's going on with your future. So I try to explain to them, the people that filled out your claim, the accredited service officers that are out there busting their humps to get these claims into the VA, the time they spend on the phone telling you what's going on with your claim, which is probably nothing, they're just still reviewing it, they could be filling out another claim for another veteran. So that's why they don't respond all the time. So just call me. I'll contact the VA and find out what the status is and provide an update. You might not like the update, but at least you're going to know what's going on.
At least it's some kind of update.
Exactly. And that's what most people want. They just want an update and they want to know what's going on. So a lot of people are just happy with that. The people that are denied over and over again, obviously they're not going to be happy with it. And they got an appeal in and it takes years. So those are the frustrating ones because they take a long time.
Gotcha. And it feels like you also collaborate with a lot of people locally, whether it's Brian Burge in East Lyme or other veteran outreach coordinators.
Yeah, I'm going to be speaking at the East Lyme Coffee House, which is another coffee house that I failed to mention. Brian Burge, he's a great advocate for the Niantic East Lyme area. I'll be there on Wednesday night on I believe Wednesday night's the 8th. I don't got my calendar with me, but 6 p.m. talking to the veterans that show up there and just giving them an update, what's happening in D.C. and what's happening here in Connecticut.
That's great.
Yep.
And I'm always impressed. I mean, the VA is I think the largest integrated health system in the country, maybe the world. And in my past life, I was working on some technologies for veterans, and they were front of the line. They wanted to try these new innovations. As long as it helped veterans, they were willing to try it as well.
Yeah, a lot of veterans are willing to try different things. I have a friend of mine, she's a Marine. She actually tried some experimental stuff for her knees. Looks like it's working out well for her. But obviously, we're willing to try different things. We served our country. We want to serve our community for the most part. That's what most veterans are. They just want to keep on helping, and they help each other. And that's what I'm trying to do, just help as many veterans as I can.
Great. And are there other elements in the community that you get involved in?
Yeah, actually there is. And I just want to say, being able to serve for Congressman Courtney has given me these opportunities to do this. There's two. Obviously, I told you about the Veterans Rally Point. I'm able to go up there, work at the gym, and help the veterans. If they want to come in and work out at 6 a.m. before they go to work, that's great. I'm allowed. I can do that. I won't say I'm allowed to do that. I can do that. And then I work with a nonprofit called areasontoride.org. It's all one word, areasontoride.org. So if you Google that, it's they help needy veterans who need help with their rent and their utilities. So if you find yourself behind on your rent or your Eversource bill or your water bill, your sewer bill, or you need a tank of oil, you're not going to be able to afford that heat, you go on that website, you print out the application, you send it to the P.O. box. We meet once a month, the second Tuesday of every month, and then the committee will sit there and look at the situation, and then we'll pay the provider of the electricity, utility, or the renter, if you're behind on your mortgage or your rent, we'll provide that. We do it one time only for each veteran. The veteran has to be on, will be discharged, and have served on active duty, which, a lot of cases we've helped a lot of veterans out. Every year they do a motorcycle run out of Plainfield, Connecticut, VFW, and over 800 motorcyclists show up and donate their money and their time to help needy veterans in the area. So it's a great cause.
Yeah, I mean, outside of just the office with Congressman
Right,
Courtney,
right.
you're heavily involved in these different
Oh yeah,
events.
yeah. Try to do that. It's all about giving back to the community. Subvets down in Groton does great things. You saw it in the paper. They served many meals, Thanksgiving dinner to young sailors who are away from home, and families and veterans. Hundreds of people were fed that day. So Subvets does great things every year. There's lots of organizations out there like that. I work with Tim Hesney at the Columbus House, Merca Reyes in New London, who helps veterans find shelter, Gina King, who works at TVCCA. These are all people that work very hard. And then we have our veteran service officers in Norwich, Emily Hine and Jeannie Gardner. Those are my two go-to people for filling out claims for veterans. They just work so hard to try to help veterans.
Yeah, lots of teamwork there.
Yeah,
and
correct.
What do you think, Manny, moving ahead, maybe the next year, couple years, do you have any visions or goals you hope to achieve?
Well, I think I want to spend more time with Veterans Rallyport to make sure that they can be as successful as possible. That's one of my biggest goals. And then, I'll stay on as long as Congressman Joe Courtney stays on. I'll stay on. I don't want to leave him. So I'll stay, and as soon as he decides to hang up his legislative hat, then I'll hang up mine, and I'll find something else to do in the community.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. And I think here in the 2nd District, we're beyond lucky to have you working so hard for veterans. And it's something we hear a lot is, how can we help more? What can people in the community do? Or how could they maybe get in touch with you in your office?
Well, I think there's two things they could do. Like, for instance, TVCCA is always asking for volunteers, people that are over 55 years old that want to volunteer to help veterans who are homebound, may need a visit, tell a story, need to go shopping, something like that. They're always trying to get people to volunteer. It's called AmeriCorps. They help senior citizens, and they help a little portion of that is veterans. So that's a great thing they do. They're based right out of here in New London, but they serve the whole eastern side of Connecticut. So that's one thing. Volunteerism is really important. Volunteer as much as you can. The other thing is, a lot of these places like Veterans Rally Point, and these community coffee houses, they're philanthropy based. They are operating on donations from big corporations, mom and pop places, people who have a little bit of extra money. Hey, I want to donate to veterans. That's what they do. So if you can't donate, volunteer or do both.
Awesome. Well, Manny, thank you so much for all that you're doing for veterans. It's been a pleasure to know more.
Thank you, Irving. Appreciate the time.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay.